Donato, and I am the director of the Round Lake Area Public Library. Today we have a facilitator, Jean Kirby, who is with the League of Women Voters. I thank all of you for coming today. Before we get started, please join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Again, thank you all very much for coming today. I'd like to let everyone know that this candidate event is exactly in correlation with the library's mission, which is to provide current information, formal education support, independent learning opportunities, and life enrichment materials for a highly diverse public, and to nurture a love of reading and learning. I would also like to say thank you very much to the Village of Round Lake Beach and to the Round Lake Beach Cultural and Civic Center Facility Manager, Monica Marr. The Village and Monica Marr have been very accommodating in providing the library a lot of events. And I encourage you, for those of you living in our area, to come over to the Civic Center. Make use of this organization. It's a fantastic facility. I would also like to say thank you very much to the League of Women Voters. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization that is a nationwide organization. They are the ones who have helped gather up and organize a lot of today's events. And they are also looking for members. So if any of you are interested in joining the League of Women Voters, please do stop by on the way out. Thank you very much to the local radio station, WRLR at 98.3 FM. That's WRLR 98.3 FM. For broadcasting today's event live, WRLR will be rebroadcasting this event 1 week from today, October 14th at 1 o'clock. So again, October 14th, 1 o'clock, WRLR will rebroadcast on their station, 98.3 FM. Comcast Local Channel 17 will be rebroadcasting this event every Saturday, starting Saturday, October 13th at 5 p.m. So every Saturday, starting October 13th until the election, Channel 17 will have this particular event rebroadcast. I would also like to remind everyone that the library is a nonpartisan organization and we do not support any candidates. All candidates for the races that you do see up here were invited, though some were able to attend and some were unable to attend today. At this time, I would like to hand this over to Jean Kirby, today's facilitator.
Good afternoon. My purpose here is to go over the ground rules so that you know exactly what the ground rules are. Also, the candidates have an advanced copy of the ground rules. The ground rules for this afternoon is the audience. You will please turn off or silence your cell phones and hold all applause until the end. We will begin our introductions and the interview questions in the order the candidates are listed on the ballot. For the county board positions, we will go in numerical order. If both candidates are present, we will have your candidates introduce themselves and answer the questions in the same order as the ballots. Each of the candidates will present for 1 minute to introduce themselves. After the introductions by race for the candidates that are present, representatives for the candidates that could not attend will be able to make a 2-minute statement on behalf of their candidate. Following the introductions, each candidate present will be asked the same 3 prepared questions and will have up to 1.5 minutes for each question to respond. Following the questions, each candidate present will have 1.5 minutes for closing comments. The candidate statements will be timed. Timekeepers and countdown cards will give the candidates notice of the remaining time on each question or statement. Unused time may not be carried over or used for a different question or a statement. Upon completion of the closing comments, the candidates will retire to their booths in the gathering hall. The audience will then be able to ask individual questions to each candidate at his or her booth. Candidates are expected to present their views and positions and not enter into a debate or campaign against the other candidates' positions. The event is not a debate, but a platform in which citizens can understand a candidate's position or belief. The facilitator will intervene if there is a debate with an empty chair or if there are any interruptions of the speaker through verbal or nonverbal communication by participants or audience. Thank you very much for your kind consideration and respect for this afternoon's events.
Thank you, Jean. First, we are going to go through an introduction of our candidates. Today's first candidate is Mr. Bob Dole. Mr. Bob Dole will have up to a minute and a half to speak, to introduce himself today, and then we will finish going through the rest of our candidates after Mr. Dole speaks.
Fantastic. Well, certainly I appreciate the opportunity to come and address you today. And I apologize that my opponent did not take the opportunity to come out and decide to address us in a League of Women Voters debate. When I decided to run for Congress a little over, I guess it was 2.5 years ago, was because I felt the government was making it harder and harder for me to put the key in the door and open up my small business each and every day. And I think they should be doing quite the opposite. They should be making it easier for me to open up my business, easier for me to hire that next individual. That the amount of funding that was going on, the amount of spending that was happening in Washington, I felt was too much. So I believe that we have to tighten our belt, because what we're doing right now is we're burying the future generation under a mountain of debt. I'm pleased that I've been able to work with my colleagues on the other side of the aisle. They've been ranked as one of the most independent members of the United States Congress by every independent analysis done. Congressional Quarterly, GovTrax, National Journal, The Washington Post, all have ranked me as one of the most independent bipartisan members. As a small business owner, let me just tell you, I employ 100 people. For me, that's 100 families. It's a role and responsibility that I take very seriously. And when I look at there's a problem in my business, I gather the people around the table, find out what the problem is, and more importantly, what's the solution to the problem we face. I'm interested in solutions. That's what I brought to Washington over this last 20 some odd months. That's exactly what we'll continue to do. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dole. Our next candidate has a representative here to represent him. This is for Mr. Joe Neal's position. Joe Neal was not able to be here today, so Joe Neal's representative, Chelsea Shopper, will have up to 2 minutes. Chelsea Shopper will be speaking for 2 minutes on behalf of Mr. Joe Neal. Chelsea will not be participating in the question and answer session interviews that we will have in just a moment.
Good afternoon, and first of all, like to thank the League of Women Voters, the Round Lake Area Public Library, and also the Round Lake Area Civic Center for hosting this event today. Joe could not be here today. He is a Navy reservist, and he is actually serving our country this weekend in the Navy. And so, unfortunately, as much as he would want to be here today, he could not be here. First of all, I would like to let you know a little bit about Joe. He was raised in the district in Wadsworth. He went to Warren High School and earned his bachelor's degree in civil engineering at Southern Illinois University. He also has his master's degree in transportation engineering from the Illinois Institute of Technology. Joe's worked the past 20 years on road and infrastructure projects throughout the community in Illinois and Wisconsin. He currently serves as an officer in the Navy Reserves at the Great Lakes Navy Base. He has served as an officer in charge of the Navy CB unit in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, and in Nicaragua during water wells for underdeveloped communities. In June 2011, Joe returned from tour in Iraq, where he served in the construction of the battalion unit that oversaw the maintenance of 30 camps throughout Iraq using Navy SEAL and Army Special Operation Forces. Joe is running for the 31st Senate District to be an independent voice for the reforms that are necessary to fix Illinois. 3 issues that Joe is focused on are jobs, lower taxes, spending, and pension reform. Regarding jobs, he wants to make sure that we bring our jobs back to Illinois. On taxes, he wants to make sure that we repeal the 67% personal income tax increase as well as the 46% corporate income tax increase. He also believes in cutting the spending and to make sure that our pensions are reformed in the state of Illinois. Thank you for your time. We also have information on Joe. You can contact our office if you would like any more information.
Thank you, Chelsea. Our next candidate is Melinda Bush.
Hi. First of all, thank you so much for putting this together on behalf of the candidates and those of you that are here today. I think it's so important that voters understand who they're voting for. I guess, how do you tell somebody about yourself in a minute and a half? I guess I'll start out with, I'm the oldest of 6 children. We grew up in a 3-bedroom house in Grays Lake with 1 bathroom, so I know what that's like to be part of a large family and what that takes. But what I'd like to tell you is that I've lived here my entire life, but what got me involved in government was when my village of Grays Lake, wanted to, sorry, got a little sign there, I didn't see what it said. Anyway, my village wanted to build 434 homes, 4,034 homes on what is now the Rollins Savannah. I got involved, organized my community, and did what I could to make sure the Forest Preserve purchased the property. It's now the Rollins Savannah, the 2nd largest forest preserve in our district. The infrastructure costs of that would have really, really hurt our community. So served as, really hard to get it in, served as a trustee in the village of Grays Lake. I'm currently on the Lake County Board in the Forest Preserve District. Over the last 3 years, I voted against our budget. I voted against our budget because although the overall budget was down $9 million because of a loss of income, we actually asked you, the property taxpayers, for $17.6 million more. I've worked to create jobs in Lake County with the FedEx facility, and on ethics, I stood up for strong ethics reform, and I guess I'm going to get more time. So, anyway, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you very much for your introductory comments, Melinda. Our next candidate today to speak is Sam Yingling.
Well, my name is Sam Yingling, and first of all, I would like to thank the League of Women Voters, the Round Lake Area Library, and also the Round Lake Beach Civic Center for hosting this forum today. For as many of you may know, I currently serve in the position as Avon Township Supervisor, and one of the things that I have focused on as Township Supervisor is providing property tax relief to our residents. Avon Township is the only taxing entity, or one of the only taxing entities in Lake County, who's actually reduced their tax levy every single year. So to date, we've reduced our tax levies by over 22%. And we've done this while maintaining jobs at the township and expanding our services. One of the ways we've done this is through a lot of community collaboration with nonprofit organizations and other governmental entities. Something else too is I personally have been returning my salary increase that was put in place by the previous administration, and that's about $25,000. Those funds go to help our food pantry, and they also go to help our low-income seniors and veterans with a property tax assistance program we run. And just recently, we voted to reduce elected official salaries by about 30%, which will save taxpayers hundreds of thousands of dollars over the next term. Now, this is something, now at Avon Township, we have successfully built a model of government that shows how you can, in fact, do a lot more with less. And that is something that we need to take to the state level. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sam. For our next candidates, please feel free to speak through the microphones over at your table. It's a little tight up here on stage. You don't want you to have to trip over anything. We are switching over to our county board candidates, and the first person to speak today is Dale Kirby.
Good afternoon. Thank you for all attending, and especially the League of Women Voters and the Round Lake Beach Library. I am Dale Kerr. I am running for the Lake County Board District 3. I want to make a difference in our community, not just for my family, but all of our residents. I am not a politician looking to gain friends in the political world. I am running for office to make an impact. When I create partnerships with businesses, government officials, let me back up. I have an MBA from the Lake Forest Graduate School of Management. I'm a retired U.S. Navy Chief Petty Officer and currently working as a program coordinator for the University of Illinois Extension, where I create partnerships with businesses, government offices, and school districts throughout the county. For 11 years, I have managed a $300,000 budget without deficits. My life experiences qualify me for the tasks I had on the board. For decades, the Lake County property taxes have been too high and are rising. They are now the 17th highest in the nation. If you want a set of fiscally responsible eyes looking on the issues, I ask you to consider me.
Thank you very much. Our next candidate is Tom Weber.
Hi, thanks for coming out. I am Tom Weber, and I'm running for Lake County Board in District 3. I'm a lifelong resident. My family has been in District 3 for over 100 years, part of the fabric of what this district is made of. I'm the youngest of 9 children. I grew up on a farm, which is now the Duck Farm Forest Preserve. I am a small business owner and an employer, and I'm running because I understand what the people in this area are going through. I spent a lot of time getting to know my district. I grew up in my district, and I think we need a representative in our district. I just want to thank everyone again for coming out, and I look forward to meeting you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tom Weber. Our next candidate is Pat Ferruzza.
Hello, I'm Patricia Ferruzza, and I'm running for Lake County Board District 5. I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters and all involved for arranging this forum, and to thank everyone for taking the time to come today and to watch or listen to the broadcast. My husband and I chose to move to Lake County in 1997, first around Lake Beach, and then to Fox Lake in 2004. I started volunteering for local campaigns and became an election judge. And many times on election day, I would hear voters expressing dismay with the number of uncontested races on the ballot. Their desire for the opportunity to hold incumbents accountable, and my own belief that local government is better when all ideas and viewpoints are represented, spurred me to take on this challenge of running for county board. It's been a pleasure to get out into the neighborhoods of my district and to meet voters and hear what they have to say, and I'm grateful to have the opportunity to ask for the opportunity to serve them. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Patricia. Our next candidate is Pat Carey.
Good afternoon. I want to thank the League of Women Voters and the Round Lake Area Library for putting this together, and all of you for coming out, and everybody, as Pat said, who's going to watch it on cable. My name is Pat Kirby. I've lived in Grays Lake for 30 years. That's where my husband and I raised our 2 sons. I had a 20-year corporate career as a technology executive. I've worked several years as a professional in the economic development world. I have spent 16 years in local government, the last 4 years on the county board, 12 years for the village of Grays Lake, 8 years as their mayor. 4 years ago, what I've been doing the last 4 years is working on the things I said I would work on when I campaigned in 2008. I said we would focus on controlling spending, improving transportation, creating jobs, and protecting the environment. Through the relationships that I have built as a leader in local government for the last 16 years, relationships with business, with other government entities, with nonprofits, I've been effective in moving forward on each of these objectives. We've balanced the budget, reduced spending, cutting millions of dollars out of the forest preserve and the county budgets. We've seen transportation improvements in Central Lake County, and more on the horizon. We've created jobs in Central Lake County, working with the municipalities. I work very closely as one of the Lake County representatives on Lake County Partners. We worked on the FedEx and Cornerstone projects. We've increased the focus on recycling. I'm the county representative on Swalco, so we've worked very closely on issues at the landfill and on the new initiative to improve our recycling across the county. We've accomplished a lot, but there's more to do. So I am looking for your support so I can continue to work on your behalf. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pat Carey. At this time, I'm going to hand the microphone over to our facilitator today, Jean Kirby. Jean will be asking our candidates a series of 3 questions. Candidates, again, I encourage you to use the microphones at your table. We don't want you to have to trip or stumble over our feet up here. Thank you very much.
Yes, we're going to ask 3 questions. We'll ask them one at a time. We'll do it in the same order that we have done it in, which is the order that is on the ballot. And please feel free just to answer at your table, and we'll go down the line. The first question. Too many papers up here. The first question for all the candidates is, how did you come to the decision to run for office? And we'll start with Mr. Dole.
Well, thank you so much for giving me that opportunity. I think I told you a little bit in the opening that when I decided to run for Congress, it was because I felt, as a small business owner, someone meets a budget and a payroll and signs the front of the paycheck, which I think is absolutely what we need in Washington today, is more people like that understand what it's like to actually hire. I felt that the government was making it harder and harder for me to put the key in the door and open up my small business each and every day. And frankly, it should be quite the opposite. They should be making it easier for me to open my business, easier for me to hire that next individual. The other reason was the out-of-control spending that was going on in Washington, from my perspective, was absolutely the wrong approach. The Republicans were overspending, the Democrats were overspending. Washington has a spending problem. And so for my 3 children, I have a 10-year-old, an 8-year-old, and a 5-year-old. I don't want to make sure that they have the same opportunities, because I believe that what was happening is that we were all going to, in essence, violate the American Compact, which means that we're going to leave our country better for the next generation than we received from our parents and grandparents. And frankly, I was terrified that I may be that first generation that doesn't do that. And for me, that's just unacceptable. So I said, you know what? We're going to put our life on hold. We're going to take time away from my business, time away from my family in order to run for Congress. Because now is the time. This is about creating upward opportunity and upward mobility for all Americans. And that was the reason why I decided that this was the time that we had to step up and run for Congress.
Thank you, Mr. Dole. Melinda Bush is the next candidate to answer the question. How did you come to the decision to run for office?
Well, you know, it was about a 6-month decision. Last spring, I really started to think about this and whether I was going to stand up and do something that I don't think most elected officials do, and then stand up and do the right thing. You know, on the county board, when I saw things that were wrong, I stood up for ethics reform. It may not have been popular, but it was the right thing to do. You know, on the county board, you know, I also voted against an increasing budget because it was the right thing to do. But I think most importantly, you know, in the state of Illinois, and I think a lot of you know this, but 4 of our last 8 governors have served jail time. We need honest, hardworking people that understand the complexities of the issues, that are going to go down and do the job on behalf of all of us. I'm not going there to make it better for me. I'm not going down there to be there for 20 years. I'm going down there because I believe I'm the right person. I'm going to stand up and do the right thing, and I'm going to make the people of this district proud. And that's why I decided to go.
Thank you very much. Next candidate is Sam Yingling. Sam, you have the same question. How did you come to the decision to run for office?
When I initially made the decision to run for township supervisor, it was because I saw that there was an administration that had taken control of a local layer of government and had turned it into a self-serving apparatus. To give you an example, the thing that finally pushed me to run for township supervisor was the fact that the previous administration had elected themselves, or had put into place pay raises as high as 27%, right when the economy was going down and we had a 19% unemployment rate in certain parts of the district. That's what encouraged me to run for township supervisor, to go in there and reform the system. Part of the reform process was also looking at our property tax code. And we came to the realization in Avon Township that the reforms that we wanted to administer couldn't totally be done on a local level. So that took me to Springfield. On my own dime, I went down to Springfield to lobby legislators and meet with them and explain to them the difficulties we were having at the township level to try and effect change and give the township more flexibility to administer the reforms. While I was in Springfield, I became much more aware of my own state representative, who very rarely spoke on the House floor and very rarely advocated for anything that the district needed. This is what led me, after much deliberation, to decide to run for this position, because we need to have strong, decisive leadership in Springfield, especially for the new 62nd district, which is facing double-digit unemployment, higher than the state average, which is facing higher than normal foreclosure rates. We need to have somebody in Springfield who understands what these issues are and is willing to fight and fight hard for them.
Thank you very much, Mr. Yingling. We'll now move to the county board positions. First will be the county board District 3, Dale Kerr.
Thank you. The reason why I decided to run for county board is basically I was being very opinionated about what was going on in the community. So someone asked me to run. I said I needed to take a look at it. I reviewed what the qualifications were for someone being a county board member. I then looked at what was happening in our county and could I make an impact. I decided that with my experiences of having lived in different parts of the world, I would bring a different perspective. I also feel that having worked in the business world for a short period of time right after the military would help me, as well as the community involvement that I have with the University of Illinois Extension. Over the last year since I made the decision, I continually make sure that I'm out working in the community, doing the best I can to bring resources to the local residents. I've done this in the past, but it's more important now, as people are unemployed, to know what services they can have and where they need to go. With this brings a new level of understanding what the county board members are faced with every day, as the property taxes are one of the main issues. And this is the reason why I've decided to run.
Thank you very much, Ms. Kerr. Our next candidate is also from District 3, Mr. Tom Weber.
Basically, I got involved not politically, but as a citizen years ago. Basically on a frustration with both political parties. I agree with Congressman Dole that both parties have overspent, and both are to blame for where we're at today. I'm running because I see that my wife and my 2 children, I have a son, 20 and a 22-year-old, that are hopefully going to grow up in this district and live here 100 years like my family before me. But the problem is, I have people, someone gave me this the other day, 27.1% increase on their property taxes. That's a problem we face all across our district and across the county. We need people that are willing to stand up for the people that aren't willing to stand up for themselves. I want my 20 and 22-year-old to be able to live here, and I'm afraid that people will start figuring out that they can move 15 miles away and have a bigger house and lower taxes. And I think we need people that are willing to get engaged and take action and set the example for the rest of the county.
Thank you very much, Mr. Weber. Next is County Board District 5, and the question is for Patricia Perusa, is how did you come to the decision to run for office?
Well, as I indicated in my introduction, that I witnessed a lot of voters who were dissatisfied with the lack of choices on their ballots. Uncontested races are bad for democracy. I may be a big D Democrat party affiliation, but I'm truly dedicated to small d democracy. Unchallenged races lead to unchallenged decisions, lead to no way to hold anyone accountable at the ballot box. It leads to little debate in the decision-making process during the years that you serve on the county board. You can't have good decisions come out of a poor debate process. Also, I have the flexibility in my schedule to take on a challenge like this. There's a lot of people who feel the way I do, but they are busy making a living and working 40 plus hours a week. I'm lucky. I work from home. And one thing that I miss working from home is the interaction with colleagues. When I did work in an office, I worked on a self-directed team. We were able to search for innovations and solutions. And that's one thing that appeals to me about the county board, is I would be one of a large governing body. I would have the chance to interact with like-minded individuals and other people who don't think the same way I do, and come out with a better way to do things for all the people in Lake County, and especially in District 5.
Thank you very much, Mr. Perusa. The next is for County Board District 6, Pat Perry.
I first ran for office in 1989 and actually was interested in government, local government in Grays Lake at that time for the same reason Melinda Bush talked about, the preservation of Brown Savannah. Ran for trustee. In 1993 I ran for mayor and was mayor for 8 years. During that time we were dealing with the fallout, as you might say, or the results of explosive residential growth. All of our districts, property taxes have been mentioned here several times. Taxes are high. They were high then, they're higher now. All of our districts were dealing with problems. The parks, the library, the school. What I was good at, and we have more government, let me say this, and I think everybody in this room knows it, we have more government in Illinois than anywhere else, than any other state by far, more individual units of government. So it is incumbent upon those of us who are local leaders in government to work together. I was good at that in Grays Lake. I was able to accomplish a lot. We built a lot of infrastructure, able to do things, projects that help the schools, help the park, help the library. When I had an opportunity in 2008, my corporate career had been wrapped up, I had an opportunity to run for the county board, and I thought I could bring that same ability to build consensus, to work with all people to the county board. And I've worked on economic development. I mean, we need to work on that in a private-public manner, as we do in Lake County Partners. We need to work with municipalities. There's 52 municipalities. There has historically sometimes been a negative relationship between the county and municipalities. I've worked to avoid that and to fix that. So that's what I brought to the table. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Carey. The second question for all the candidates: what are your accomplishments in this community over the past 5 years? And we will start again with Mr. Dole.
Well, thank you so much. And I will say that as we look at the accomplishments, I'm actually very proud of, and it hasn't been 5 years, we've only been there about 20 months. But I am proud of what we have been able to accomplish. Most people hear about the gridlock, and that is certainly a problem. But as a freshman, I've been able to pass 6 pieces of legislation past the House. 2 have actually been signed into law. One dealing with corruption, the other one dealing with something that I think is very important for us, and that's our national security, and that's with sanctions with Iran and the threat that they pose to us here in our national security. As we look more locally, and I think, again, the biggest issue we face is jobs. Jobs in the economy. And I was able to pass this last week that I was in session, my bill, talking about the Global Investment in American Jobs Act. It passed the House overwhelmingly. It's now sitting in the Senate. My hope is that bill will also be signed into law. As we look at Waukegan, the ability that we're trying to clean up the Waukegan Harbor, something that, again, I think is very powerful. Also, we've been able to try to make sure that the air station for Waukegan remains here. As we look at the number of people that are having incidents on Lake Michigan, to have the Coast Guard be moved up to Traverse City, taking about 127 minutes to get down to help someone here as opposed to 6 minutes out of Waukegan, was another accomplishment. But as we look at the jobs in the economy, I think that's probably one of the things that I'm very proud of. We passed about 30 different jobs bills, many of them still sitting over in the Senate, but a number of those broad bipartisan support, 400 some odd votes that have passed the House that are now sitting over in the Senate. A couple of those did pass, and so we're very proud about that, which would help us here in the local community, because that's what I'm hearing from people here, is they're concerned about jobs and the economy.
Thank you very much. Melinda Bush, the question is to you. What are your accomplishments in this community over the past 5 years?
You know, over the past 5 years, I'm going to mainly talk about things that we've accomplished on the county board. You know, we've provided a lot of infrastructure improvements. While the state dollars really haven't been there to improve roads, the county's taken on a lot of that responsibility with the 0.25% sales tax. So not only are we improving the county highways, Washington, you know, that you see here locally, we're also moving forward to work on the Rollins Road and 83 issue. That's been a dangerous intersection for a very long time. We're moving forward on that. We're also expanding Washington Street, and in Round Lake in particular, we'll be on 2013 expanding Washington and making sure it's safe for students to walk home from the high school, from the middle school. Those are things that are really important to this area. We need quality infrastructure and safe ways for our children to walk back and forth to school. I'm also very proud of the ethics reform that I feel I was instrumental in at a county level. When there were issues that came up, I fought against them, I stood against them, and we now have a stronger ethics ordinance. And just the other week, we were talking about what new county board members and forest preserve members will be required to do, and part of it is ethics training. And I believe that in today's environment, that elected officials need to be held accountable, and I'm proud that I made sure that those things stopped.
Thank you very much. The next candidate is Sam Yingling, and his response to the question, what are your accomplishments in this community over the past 5 years?
Is that on? Okay. For a lot of people who don't know, I've grown up in this area. My family has had a small business in this community for 30 years, so we have deep roots that go way back more than 5 years, so I'll try and keep it to the 5-year limit. Over the past 4 years, as I've served as township supervisor, what I'm most excited about for providing help to the community is the fact that we have successfully reduced our tax levies by over 22%. While maintaining jobs and services at the township. We've reduced our spending by cutting waste, not jobs and services. I've also, as I mentioned earlier, been giving back my pay raise that was put in place by the previous administration, and that's about $25,000, and those are funds that go to directly help those who are most in need in our community. through our food pantry, which we've seen about a 300% increase in need there, and also for our low-income seniors and veterans who need assistance with property tax relief because they're being forced from their homes due to the fact that Lake County has the 14th highest property tax county in the country. The other thing that I'm incredibly excited about is working with the Avon Township Community Foundation. And with that partnership, we formed a food pantry production farm behind our building, along with a community garden. And each year we generate roughly a half a ton to a ton of fresh produce for our clients at our food pantry. And those are all a variety of ways that we try and better the lives of the individuals within our community. Many of the things which I am incredibly proud of.
Thank you very much, Mr. Yingling. We will now move to the County Board, District 3, Dale Kerr, to the question, what are your accomplishments in this community over the past 5 years?
Okay, one of the first accomplishments that I'm most proud about is receiving my master's in business administration from Lake Forest Graduate School of Management. Receiving that degree has helped me to look at lots of areas of concerns throughout the county. And in order to do that, I felt it was important to be a small business owner. So the best way to do that was to start a small direct sales company, which led me to then join the Lake County, the Lake Villa and Lindenhurst Chamber of Commerce. That has allowed me to partner with many businesses throughout our area in District 3. But some of the more important accomplishments is that I do with my University of Illinois Extension job. I've worked with Waukegan School District, and through that work, we were able to start a PEPRIC, which is a physical education program. And then I was able to partner and meet other community members in order to help reduce the obesity in children. I think it's very important for us to work with all of the agencies and organizations in the school districts. So those are some of my major accomplishments, as well as being a part of bringing everyone's strengths together and bringing other memberships to our office for us to explore different ways of helping the local residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kerr. Next from the same District 3, Tom Weber.
One of the things I said in my opening was about action, and what I've done in District 3 and across Lake County over the past 4 years is try to get people engaged in government. Like I said, I got involved because I was upset with both political parties. I see the property tax rates going up, property value going down, and people can't just sit by and watch. And one of the things I've done is I FOIA'd every city and village across Lake County 2 years ago. I've publicized all the payrolls, perquisites, and benefits, because all that stuff should be open for public inspection. You shouldn't have to be jumping through hoops to find it, and people need to know where their money goes. Another thing is, I think that people need to go back to what is the purpose of government? What is the role of proper government? Some of the things I've done over the last couple of years is I've hosted 2 constitutional classes. I flew in the president of the National Center for Constitutional Studies for a seminar open to the public last year, things like that. But the most important thing is I've employed families, and I put food on more tables than my own. I think that's really what people are concerned with now, with jobs and taxes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Weber. We'll go to County 5. And your question, Patricia Peruzza, is what are your accomplishments in this community over the past 5 years?
One of the accomplishments is helping to start the Grant Township Democrats. And we've been able to get information out about candidates on the ballot, about access to the ballot, getting people out to vote, informing them about vote by mail, early voting, all the ways that voting is easier in this county than a lot of counties across the state. And one other thing I've done is I partnered with a group of my friends. We privately decided to mentor a family for a year. We pooled our resources and our expertise, and we found a family who were struggling. They struggled with unemployment. They struggled with loss of driver's license due to DUI and traffic tickets. They had children who were having attendance troubles at school. Their housing situation was always chaotic. So we worked with them. We would meet with them once a week, twice a week if they wanted to. We helped get them into a more stable housing situation. We were able to get them fully functioning computers, so their kids had internet access for school. We were able to get both of them to get their driver's license reinstated. We were able to help get them recommended for jobs. And it showed me how private and public could work together to help improve the lives of those who we may not see struggle in this community but are struggling so very hard. But it also showed me how easy it is for people to fall through the cracks. We found them because they happened to be on the top of the pile when one of our members walked into a church to ask how we could help. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Peruzzo. And final for the county is District 6, Pat Carey.
I want to talk about two accomplishments outside the county board and then what I've done on the county board. When I was mayor of Grace Lake, this was more than 5 years ago, but was when we first brought Lake Forest Hospital to Grace Lake. Years later, I served on the Lake Forest Hospital board for 5 years, and was on that board, was part of the executive committee when we negotiated the relationship with Northwestern Memorial Hospital. I'm very proud of having been involved in that to continue to grow the availability of healthcare services in the central and northwestern part of the county. When I was working on economic development for the village of Arlington Heights, I made the initial contact with Roundy's out of Wisconsin to bring a distinction of working on the project to bring the first Mariano's to the suburbs, and it's located on Northwest Highway in Arlington Heights. I mention both of these because they're involved in economic development. They have brought jobs to residents of the county, although Arlington Heights is in Cook. On the board, I was one of the strongest voices against adding incineration into our solid waste management plan. Instead, we shifted the focus to recycling. We shifted the focus to reducing our waste stream. We recently have kicked off an initiative, which I hope you've seen, Recycle First, Trash Last, trying to move from 38 to 60% recycling. I'm the Vice Chair of Finance on the Forest Preserve Committee. We are voting on Tuesday to ask you, the taxpayers, for $1.5 million less dollars than we did last year. I've been involved in controlling our spend and reducing our budget as much as possible. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Candidates, the final question for all of you is, what are your 3 most important goals to accomplish if elected? And we will start, of course, with Bob Dole.
Well, thank you. And I think that certainly if we look at the most important things, at least that I'm hearing from people, I'm out each and every day talking to citizens, those that find themselves out of work, those that are struggling to make ends meet. It's jobs in the economy. The good news is that when I talk to my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, they also tell me it's jobs in the economy. So there should be some common ground. I have a Main Street jobs agenda. So it's not just talking in hyperbole, it's actually talking about putting pencil to paper and saying, what is it that we want to do? And so access to capital, so making sure entrepreneurs, innovators, small business owners have those dollars. Also, it's going to be about exports and manufacturing, because we live in a heavily manufacturing district. Education, STEM education, to make sure we're preparing students to take jobs in the 21st century. Revising the tax code so that it's not so burdensome, so that people can understand it, and broadening the base and leveling the playing field. It's also going to be about regulation. How do we want regulation? It needs to be smart regulation, though, as opposed to simply more of it. And then how do we deal with energy? And finally, it's our transportation and infrastructure system in terms of how we deal with that. So that's jobs in the economy, the #1 issue that we need to face. Second thing I would say is the out-of-control spending that's going on all around us, I would argue Springfield and Washington as well. And finally, it's making sure that we keep our country safe and free. Focusing in on the threats that are abroad and making sure that we're doing all we can to protect our citizens here at home. And I think those are obviously some heavy goals that are out there. Certainly those are things that I've been working on over the last 20 months, and look forward to talking with each and every one of you about them in our time, hopefully afterwards. And again, apologize that my opponent chose not to be here today.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dole. And second, for the question, what are your 3 most important goals to accomplish if elected? Melinda Bush.
You know, they're not going to be all that different, just at a state level. But truly, it's creating jobs in our economy. And the way that we're going to create jobs in the state of Illinois is by making sure that we have the infrastructure in place. Transportation, I think everybody sitting in this room knows how long we've been waiting for Route 53, knows how long we've been waiting to see the 120 bypass built, knows how long we have been sitting on these roads that are heavily congested. So we need somebody that's going to go down and really fight to make sure that we have the infrastructure provided so that as the economy continues to break, and thank goodness all the indicators are there that it's breaking, we have the infrastructure in place. I think the other thing that's obviously huge in the state of Illinois is cutting our budget. And we have a spending and income problem in the state of Illinois. We all know with this economy, the income has been down drastically, but it's going to take people that are willing to stand up and work on things like zero-based budgeting, having programs actually justify their existence so that we make sure that we're not overspending in some areas while underspending in other areas. You know, ethics reform. I mean, my God, 4 out of our last 8 governors in jail. It's an embarrassing record. You know, frankly, we need ethics reform in the state of Illinois, and we need people that are willing to stand up regardless what party they're from and say this is just wrong and I'm not going to stand up for it. And then we all know about pension reform. We have a problem in that we have an incredible unfunded amount in our pension debt. And they're defined benefits. Sorry, I guess I'm going to close up. But we really do. We need people that are willing to sit at the table because nobody's really been sitting there. We need labor, we need Democrats, we need Republicans. Enough is enough. We need to fix it.
Thank you, Ms. Bush. Next is Mr. Sam Yingling. What are your 3 most important goals to accomplish if elected?
When I'm meeting with residents across the district, the #1 issue is property tax reform. And we can all see it each year on our property tax bills. I see it myself. I'm a taxpayer just like everyone else. And the reality is that Illinois has one of the most dysfunctional property tax code systems in the country. We can see it every time we look at our bill, and it explains why Lake County has about the 14th highest property tax county in the nation. That's a huge priority. Property taxes are forcing people from their homes. To give you an example, my grandmother is 88. Her home is paid for, but she has to work a part-time job to make her property tax payments, which are about $6,000 a year. Now, when an 88-year-old woman who should be enjoying her retirement has to work a part-time job to make her property tax payments, I'm sure that shows us all that we have a serious problem with our property tax code here in the state. The second issue would obviously be jobs. One of the problems with the state of Illinois is that they simply don't plan. They don't have any sort of long-term tax policy. They don't have any sort of long-term growth policy. What we need to do is we need to put policies in place that support sunrise industries, but more importantly, they support our small, locally owned business, our small mom-and-pop businesses, because really where we're going to see economic recovery is from the ground up. The people who have an investment, a capital and personal investment here in our community, not people who have a multinational headquarters in some other country. It's right here, people we know and on the ground. And the third thing is restoring confidence in our government. I think Melinda Bush made a really good remark about there's absolutely no confidence left at the government level, and we need to start leading by example, and that's something that I have done and am prepared to continue to do.
Thank you very much, Mr. Yingling. Next, we'll move to the County Board, District 3. And your question, what are your 3 most important goals to accomplish if elected? First will be Dale Kerr.
Thank you. I think that my goals are very similar to the people that you just heard from. The #1 is the property taxes. We have over 200 taxing bodies, and we need to find some way to streamline some of those things. We need to make it affordable to live in Lake County so that the businesses will stay here and that people can afford to go to school, enjoy the forest preserves that we have and the amenities that we have. But they need to be able to know that their tax dollars are going to the proper things that are important. The second thing is to ensure that we create jobs, that businesses are going to want to come to Lake County and do business here. Again, that kind of falls in line with the property taxes. However, while we're creating jobs, we also need to make sure our schools are fully staffed and functioning, that they have the resources that they need. And my third thing is to ensure that we find better ways or different ways to reach out and touch the residents in order to help them get the resources that they need. Many times knocking on the doors, people would tell me that they're unemployed. They have no understanding on where to go to find resources at times. Now it's kind of pick up a phone and apply for unemployment over the phone. They didn't realize that there was a job workforce development center right here in Grace Lake. Those are the 3 top priorities that I have if elected. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Kerr. Tom Weber is next from District 3, District 3.
Similar jobs, taxes, regulations, and rebuilding the trust with our local villages. From my experience, from what I've learned speaking with the mayors and a lot of trustees, is that they've lost a lot of trust in county government. That too many people get elected for a job instead of to be a representative of their district. And I plan on rebuilding that. I've done a good job so far. Taxes and regulations. We need to get rid of senseless regulations like the transfer stamp. So you have the privilege to sell your home. We have to encourage the existing county board to please pass the zoning change on the DeMucci property for a 650,000 square foot mall that would employ thousands of people. And we need to lobby Springfield, our representatives, to push to get 53 built and come up to northern Lake County so that we can get our manufacturers and our business people up in this area quicker access to the eastern suburbs or western suburbs. It's about getting people back to work, taxes, and regulations. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Weber. Next we'll move to County Board District 5, Patricia Ferruzzo. Your question is, of course, what are your 3 most important goals to accomplish if elected?
The first one is job creation. We should continue to find ways to work with the private sector and with groups like Lake County Partners to bring businesses to this area. And we also need to find ways to use the facilities and storefronts that are currently sitting empty before we break ground for new development. It's disheartening to drive by and see so many empty places and think of what could go in there and who we could employ and how we could take advantage of that. I also want to encourage responsible spending to establish the priorities in the budget for the proper things and fund them adequately and give more opportunity for public input into that process on the front end to get a better outcome on the back end. And finally, I would like to increase the recycling effort to move out from municipalities out into the unincorporated areas of Lake County, get more people out there recycling, and encourage green initiatives, and to make Lake County a friendly place for wind and solar power to protect the natural resources that we all enjoy here and that we're all fighting to keep Lake County a wonderful place to live in. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ferruzzo. Finally, District 6. Pat, Carrie, what are your 3 most important goals to accomplish if elected?
In the 5 campaigns I've run, I probably knocked on over 10,000 doors, and it always was taxes and traffic. And I'll tell you, in this campaign, as bad as traffic is in this part of Lake County, it isn't getting mentioned as much as taxes. Property taxes are the issue. So to me, it's about it's about a couple things. It's about controlling our spending, which I think we've done a pretty good job of on the county and the Forest Reserve over the past 4 years, but we need to get even tougher. I mentioned what we're doing on the Forest Reserve. We're just starting to talk about and look at our county budget, and we'll have some very interesting discussions over the next month as we look at how we can get that down as low as possible. So we need to control our spending, but then we also need to work on economic development. To do that, to bring jobs, to bring a more diverse tax base to the area that will help the residents as far as lowering their tax bill over time. To do that, we need to look at transportation. So we need to get eventually a decision on the big gorilla in the room, which is a 53, which will enable us to fix 120. But in the meantime, we need to do some other things. You've heard about Washington Street. We're going to expand that. We're going to finally fix Rollins and 83, and the county is funding these projects. We need to look at things like what can we do at Haynesville Road and Route 120 to increase the flow of traffic through there. So look for little things that could have a big impact on local residents. Lastly, the environment. The environment is always at the core of what I'm looking at, but even that can lead us to create more jobs. If we do the right thing, the landfill in Grays Lake employs, I think, 7, 8, 9 full-time employees. The recycling facility down the road employs 80 people. Do the right thing for the environment, and we can create jobs at the same time. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Carey. We'll go into the final part of our presentation today. That is, you will have a minute and a half to make a closing statement. Once again, you are welcome, please, to stay at your table so we don't have to keep shuffling around. And we will start with Mr. Dolan, Robert Dolan.
Well, thank you again, and I want to thank the League of Women Voters for putting this on. And I was born and raised in the area. I run a business here. It's where my wife and I chose to put down our roots and raise our 3 children. I've set forth a clear vision for my Main Street Jobs agenda, how we can work together to get our nation back on track. I fought to increase loans for small businesses, worked in a bipartisan manner to create jobs, and fought to rein in out-of-control spending, which we've talked about in Washington. I stood up for clean air and clean water and for preserving Lake Michigan, which I think is the jewel of our ecosystem. I fought for women's health and supported stem cell research, fought against my own party to preserve funding for mass transit for our communities, which we know is so very, very important. I also worked with the administration to fight corruption, putting an end to government pensions for felons like Rod Blagojevich. I'm proud to be rated as one of the most independent bipartisan members of the United States Congress. And with your help and support, I'll continue the tradition of thoughtful independent leadership that we've had in the 10th District. I'm honored to have been awarded the endorsement from the Chicago Tribune today, which recognized my commitment for thinking for myself and bridging the political divide. Whether you consider yourself a Democrat, an independent, a Republican, I ask that you set aside the party politics and the party labels and join me. On November 6th, I ask for your vote. But each and every one of you has some homework to do. I want you to go and check out Congressional Quarterly. Go to govtracks.us. Go to doleforcongress.com to learn more information. Thank you, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here.
Thank you very much. Melinda Bush.
You know, I've always believed that there's a time for everything in somebody's life. Sometimes it's not at the same time. But what I can tell you is I know that this is the right time for me to go to Springfield, and I'm the right person for you to send to Springfield. I know it's my background of experience in both the private sector, the public sector. It's my background of standing up for ethics reform. It's the experience that I have in dealing with complex budgets and understanding how they work. And it's just who I am. Whether you're Republican or Democrat, you're right. It's time that we look at people and we make sure that these are the people that have the backgrounds, the fortitude, and are willing to stand up and do the right things. You know, I think we're all, I know I am, I speak for myself, I'm tired of platitudes, I'm tired of promises. I just want somebody to tell me the truth. We're in tough economic times in the state of Illinois. It's getting better. We have mountains of debt. What we don't need are people that are going to stand up and tell you things to make you feel good, to tell you what it is I'm going to be doing for you for the next 10 years. Here's what I'm going to be doing for you. I'm going to be standing up like I'm standing up right now, and I'm going to stand up for you because I'm going for 10 years. I'm not going for 20. I'm not going for 30. I'm a 56-year-old woman. I'm going to do the right thing, and we should have more people in this country that are willing to stand up. You asked me what was the hardest part of this decision, or what was it? Could I go and do it? Would I really do it? And I'm asking for your vote because I'm going to do it. I'm going to do what's right, and I'm going to make you proud of me. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here today, truly, and thank you for putting this on.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sam Yingling.
Well, again, I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters, the Round Lake Area Library, and also the Round Lake Beach Civic Center for hosting this forum, as well as for the candidates who showed up here today. I think there is a very stark difference between me and my opponent, as can clearly be illustrated by the fact that my opponent is not here today, and I am. I've been active in the community, I get out, I meet with people, and I'm around in the community on more than just election season. And that's something that, again, we need to have in Springfield. We need to have a representative who is not afraid to get out and meet with their constituents, who is not afraid to tell their constituents what they need to hear, not what they want to hear. As township supervisor, I've lived up to every obligation I have made the people. When I ran for township supervisor, I said I would get back my salary increase. That's done. I said that I would reduce the tax levies by 8.7%. I've actually reduced them by over 22% by cutting waste, not jobs and services. I said that I would cut salaries to elected officials, and we just did that. We've cut salaries by nearly 30%, which will save hundreds of thousands of dollars for taxpayers in the next term. This is the type of leadership we need in Springfield. Somebody who's actually going to do what he or she says they're going to do. And I have a strong record of that. But more importantly, what we need with our problems and our issues in the 62nd District is we need somebody who's not afraid to get down and do the heavy lifting. We need somebody who's going to fight for us and who's going to be upfront with us and tell us exactly how it is. And that's the sort of person I am, and that's the sort of legislator I would be. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Yingling. And now to the County Board candidates. County Board District 3, Dale Kerr.
Thank you. Thank you everyone for coming. And the reason why I thank you is because it's important that you take time to learn about your candidates. I do not have a family that's lived here in Lake County for 100 years. We moved here probably about 14 years ago. My husband was finishing up his military service at Great Lakes. And then we looked for a community where we wanted to live. And we found Lindenhurst. And we fell in love with it. We fell in love with the schools. And so I'm running to maintain what we have there and to maintain our schools. The schools right now are cutting resources. And that's something that we need to make sure that we don't let happen. Because when we cut resources, we also cut jobs wanting to come into the area, people wanting to move in. So I am running because I want to be a voice for all of the residents of District 3. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Tom Weber.
Hi, thank you for coming out. I'm running because I want to make Lake County a better place for all of us. One of the things I talked about was rebuilding the relationships with our villages, townships, park districts, and stuff like that. I recently been endorsed by the Mayor Terry Lumpkin, Mayor Richard Hill, Township Supervisor Dan Venturi, Mayor Frank Lafredo. And that's because I promised them that I'll stay engaged and that I'll go there to represent the interests of our districts, which is something they haven't had in a long time. I understand that we need to get rid of things like the transfer stamp, where the government says you need their permission to sell your house. And that's why I'm being supported by Main Street Organization, the largest group of realtors across Illinois. I understand growing up on a farm, the needs of our farmers, the importance of agriculture in Lake County, and that's why I've been endorsed by the Lake County Farm Bureau. I understand what taxpayers are going through, and that's why I've been endorsed by this person with a 27.1% tax increase. I understand what people are going through here in Lake County. I want to fight for you, and I'm asking that please on November 6th, please endorse me for your county board representative.
Thank you very much. County Board Position District 5, Patricia Ferruza.
I want to thank once again the organizers of this forum, and thanks to my fellow candidates here with me. I'm sure we all look forward to a spirited final month of the campaign focused on ideas and issues. And I make these promises to those I am asking to vote for me. I will consistently engage the entire district to hear concerns and questions. I will vote on matters before the board in a manner that always puts the interests of the residents of Lake County, and particularly the constituents of my district, above my own. I will strive for greater openness and transparency in the decision-making process of the county board, and explore ways for increased citizen input and observation of the setting of the priorities for the $500 million county budget and the approval procedure that follows. And speaking with the voters in Fox Lake, Volo, Ingleside, McHenry, Lakemore, Antioch, and Round Lake, it's evident that the district has changed much over the past 16 years, while the leadership has not. We candidates are doing our part to get the message out that there are choices and options on the ballot this fall. We ask that you let everyone you know that it's important to become an informed voter and to vote your convictions. We can have a Lake County that looks proudly and optimistically towards the future when we all do our part. Thank you again.
Thank you very much. County Board District 6, Pat Carey.
I want to thank everyone involved in putting this on again and all of you for attending. We all have ideas on what we should do to control spending, improve transportation, fix the environment, create jobs. The question is, what do we do with those ideas? We need leaders who can turn ideas into action. We need leaders who have a voice that will be listened to. We need leaders who have proven their effectiveness at getting things done. I've done that. 16 years in local government. And I work at the level of local government for a very specific reason. Because I'm a pragmatist. I like to get things done. It becomes a lot harder when you go to Springfield and Washington, D.C. to get things done. So in the 4 years I've been on the county board, I have built relationships and I have been able to move the ball forward in a lot of different areas. I have been put in positions of leadership by the county board chair and approved by my fellow county board members. I am the county representative on Swalco. I'm the county representative on the Central Lake County Water Agency, one of 4 representatives on Lake County Partners. I am able to move us forward. I work in a very nonpartisan fashion. I've been endorsed by the Sierra Club and the Farm Bureau. I've been endorsed by Democrats and Republicans. We need to be able to spend your tax dollars as wisely as possible. To do that, we have got to work together. I'm good at that, and I would like to continue to do it on your behalf for a couple more years at least. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Round of applause for our guests. be like I was back in middle school and I'd have to be jumping over tables. This was really easy. At this part, we're going to allow the candidates to go to their tables, and we're going to ask the audience to stay seated for just a little bit so they can go and put out materials and get set. So candidates, thank you very much for coming.